Hey guys, how's it going? Daniel P. Riley here of Whimsyland.org Literary Coaching and Services. And today's video, I wanted to talk about show versus tell, a topic that comes up quite a bit on social media amongst us creators about the difference between the two. Some folks like to decry such things and get straight to the point. Others prefer to be a bit more purple about it, which is a reference to the concept of purple prose, overly flowery speech and text in literature. What I wanted to talk about today is the difference between the two and what they are. So in my mind, when I hear the word show, I think of a television show. I think of a movie. I think of watching something. I'm being shown a thing. When I think of tell, it's a monologue, a lecture, an explanation. I'm being told something. And that fundamentally is the crux of the issue. On one hand, you have something that you're able to see and visualize and then absorb through your eyes. The other is information that you're able to absorb through your ears. But in fiction writing, it's not about what you see with your eyes, but what you see with your mind, that being your imagination. The idea of showing in dramatic fiction is to describe through words a scene and the actions of the characters in that scene with enough detail to excite the imagination and paint the portrait within the mind of the reader. So you're the director of an imaginary film in someone's head. Now, everyone's going to be different and interpret things differently. That's to be expected. But a good writer knows enough of the basic information and the basic ability to convey that information that they can plant the seeds of concepts in someone's mind. Now, if I say to you, there's a man fishing on a lake, those are common enough things that you can imagine what that looks like. You can kind of get a vague idea of what the man looks like. Flannel shirt, jeans, maybe a vest with a bunch of things hanging off of it, and one of those fun crumpled looking hats, a fishing pole, a small boat, and a calm lake. That's just enough information to inspire the imagination to understand something. But there's no detail that excites that imagination. Now, if I say there's a young man in an orange vest sitting in a rowboat fishing on a troubled lake under a darkening and cloudy sky, the picture in your mind changes, doesn't it? It doesn't become a generic sample of man, vest, fishing pole, small boat, calm lake. It becomes an orange vest, so it's careful. It becomes a young man, so you can visualize someone that's maybe more in their 20s to 30s, and a rowboat signifies something very small. You can kind of imagine that there are oars, and then a troubled lake a lake of troubled water. So now you're able to imagine that the water's a bit choppy, the rowboat's rocking, and a darkening and cloudy sky allows you to visualize what's going on overhead them and infer things like there's a storm coming. Then you start to question, why is the young man fishing on a lake just before a storm hits? Just the slightest variation in detail paints a much more vivid picture in the reader's mind. And that fundamentally is the difference between show and tell. My first example, I told you what it was that was to be visualized. The second example, I begin to show you what that vision is. And you can expand from there. Obviously, you can get in even more detail. The wind traveling across the surface of the water, lending to the increase in the waves. So now you can tell that the wind is blowing, so maybe his clothes are moving. The fishing line is bowing from being pushed about by the airspeed velocity. And it adds more questions. Now you're very certain that there's a storm coming, and that's a bit silly for someone to be out on a lake right before a storm. So now you're wondering why. I could certainly tell you, but it's much more fun as an author, and it's much more fun for the reader if I just show you. That in and of itself is the simplest explanation of the difference between show and tell. To tell is simply to give the information to someone else. To show someone is to share a vision. It's to share a concept that isn't simplified and generic. Some people, sure, will take it very, very far. The common joke with Tolkien is needing to know, everything about every single tree branch on every single tree in the forest. That's an exaggerated, dramatic example of taking show possibly too far, but some people like that. And whether or not you feel like it's a waste of your time or it's starting to make you sleepy or you just want to move on to the more fun parts where they're swinging swords and killing orcs, that's up to you. Does it really impact the story itself, or is it just your perception? And would it be better if there wasn't as much detail? That's the question that really should be asked, at least in my opinion. You can tell me what you think in the comments, obviously. And if you'd like to have a conversation about this, I am always hanging around on the Twix, as we call it in A Drink with Crazy Circles, at Mr. DP Riley. You can hang out with me there, or I'll see you in the next video. I am Daniel P. Riley of Whimsyland.org, the Iron Sage, one of the co-hosts of the Iron Age Nights on Friday nights on A Drink with Crazy Live. And I hope you go check out his channel for incredible showcases of all the different indie works out there, so you can find your newest thing to enjoy. Go be great.